On today's show, 3 questions. Number 1, why the heck did Matt cut Rabih off from his actual point last week? Number 2, what's the secret to a happy life? Number 3, did it just get harder to get financial advice? Let's go. Welcome to Dentist Money's 2 cents, where we help dentists navigate all the noise. I'm Matt.
I'm Victoria.
And I'm Rabih.
Yeah, you are.
Are you going to say that every time?
It's pretty much a thing now. It's pretty much just a thing.
Oh,
I love it. When we
Hey,
finally
guys.
do merch, we'll do. Yeah, you are.
Yeah, you are. I say that way too often. Just my response to a lot of things is just like, yeah, it is. Yeah, you are. Like, that's just always my response. I don't know.
You're a cheerleader.
I'm a hype man.
Yeah, you are like sunshine in human form, you know? Like,
Oh my gosh,
Wow.
Thank you so much. I think it's because this
Wow.
window right here is shining light into my face and I look very sunsetty or sunrisey. I don't know. That's like my aura. But thank you. Oh my gosh, I needed
welcome.
that on this Friday morning. So, guys, welcome to another 2 cents. We
So happy to be
need
here.
to give a shout out real quick to our very own Victoria.
oh gosh.
Why do we need to give a shout out to Victoria? Victoria,
You guys, I survived my first year at Dentist
first year
Advisors.
at VA.
Yay.
We did it. I can't.
I lived. I'm alive.
You're alive. You're still here. We're all shocked, but
Yeah.
we're still.
I'm the most surprised. I'm just as surprised as you are.
Yeah. Really quick, we were just saying this because Chip hit a year mark. Spencer Chipping, he's not in our content, but he's incredible. The man behind our summit. He just hit a year mark because you guys were hired pretty much around the same time.
Yep.
And you always know you have good, like you did a good job hiring when you hit the year mark, and it's like, holy cow! It feels like you've been here for so much longer than a year, but like in
Yeah.
a good way. It's
Yeah.
like you guys are just part of the team. It's like, it feels like you've been here for 5 years.
Yeah.
So anyway, congratulations. We
Thank
love having you
you.
here.
Ah, many more to
but-
come.
Many more years to come. So let's jump in. Rabih, the question is, why the heck did I cut you off from your actual point last week? We'll rephrase this. So the question was, what's the takeaway from Q1's earnings season? Part 2 is what today is, because we got done recording last week. I'm calling myself out. We got done recording. I literally hit stop and Rabih goes, Matt, I didn't get to make my point. For some reason, we were just flowing and it just naturally went into Jake's topic. And then we just started going. And then and Rabih didn't. I was like, Rabih, why didn't you tell? Like, you could have just told me that I was being an idiot. But Rabih's too nice.
We could have let it go, but we said, like, what's the key takeaway from earnings? And we only talked about NVIDIA. So I felt like I let the audience down by not
Yes.
covering earnings.
It was
So
an
this is what we're hoping
unintentional
to do.
tease. Unintentional tease. It was
You
my
guys were
fault.
flowing. You were dropping
just flowing.
bars.
We
so.
were bars. Okay. So Rabih, what is the actual takeaway from Q1's earnings season? Let's hit that.
Yes, let's talk about earnings and my last point that I wanted to make about NVIDIA. It feels
Perfect.
weird
Oh.
to like resume where you were.
It's okay. It's okay. So we
And
do it
back
every week.
to you, Rabih.
Okay.
Back to
To-
Rabih in the studio.
To refresh everyone's memory, we were talking about NVIDIA and how much can it grow and is this sustainable? And we were looking at the pace of their earning beat and revenue beat. I got a good statistic that I want to share with you, and it is related to how big NVIDIA is and where does it stand vis-a-vis other companies in the US stock market. So if we look at the S&P 500, NVIDIA, or even if we look at the US stock market as a whole, NVIDIA is now the 3rd largest company in the US behind Apple and Microsoft.
wild.
Microsoft,
That's insane.
based on like Wednesday's numbers, was around $3.1 trillion in market cap, Apple around $2.9 trillion in market cap, and NVIDIA at $2.8 trillion in market cap. Impressive
Wow.
amount. If we go with the hypothesis of how much longer can a company grow before it becomes the economy, I was going to try to answer how much more does NVIDIA need to grow to become the largest US stock and like large US stock. And
Yeah.
based on these numbers, it only needs to outperform by, do you guys have a guess?
Not even close,
5%.
Rabih.
Very close, because we've seen it. Like, it went up 138% year to date, 250% last 2 years, like huge numbers. But to actually become the largest US company, it only needs to outperform Microsoft by 11%.
Wow.
So talking about an upper ceiling of where we see it growing, vis-a-vis and only relatively speaking, we only have 11% room, assuming the economy is not expanding. This does not mean that NVIDIA cannot grow 100% more or 200% more. But if it's going to be doing that, it has to come with a justification that it is also growing the economy with it, or else it's going to be too big in shares of like the corporate share of the economy.
Well, and just think of it like this, because we have people, NVIDIA is getting so many headlines, and we get it. We understand why. But people saying, should I jump in? Should I get in on this? And the point we made last week, and think of this in the terms of a dental practice, taking your dental practice to its first 7 figures in collections, right? And then going from, let's say, $1 million in collections to $2 million in collections, and then from 2 million to 4 million. Like, the bigger you get, the harder those numbers are going to become, right? It's the same thing with NVIDIA. It's like there's only so much room it can go. Like for it to double now from what it was, like doubling now is way harder just because the numbers are so much bigger. So just keep that in mind when it comes to investing. It's like, should I get in now? I guess maybe, but if you're expecting it to continue on this, at some point, there's going to be like a law of diminishing returns.
Yeah, if it doubles now, it's going to become a $5.6 trillion company.
So exactly, and the chances of that happening, or again, just from the you said this last week, Rabih. You said at some point the economy can't support it being that big.
Yeah, especially in a very short period of time.
Exactly.
But the narrative is very, justifiable for why NVIDIA has been doing what it's been doing.
For sure.
Okay. To jump to the next topic, not to leave you guys, we'll answer more NVIDIA questions as they come because they will be coming. But now let's jump to the main key takeaway, which was related to earnings. I'm going to give you a summary, and we're going to talk about what happened with the U.S. stock market. So let's start.
I actually, really quick, I wonder if I truly do wonder if anyone left that listened to that show last week and was quite like, because you noticed it. I thought you'd hit the point. I wonder if anybody was like, wait a second, they actually didn't hit any takeaway.
Wait,
so
what?
Yeah, wait, what? That's our side podcast. We're going to start. Wait, what?
The Wait What podcast.
So if you, I'd love to know if you just comment in our Facebook group or message us if you actually were waiting, if you actually did realize that we didn't hit the actual point. So Rabih, back to you in the studio.
Yes, thank you very much. So earning growth rate for Q1 2024 hit 8%. Which, if you exclude the energy sector and exclude like one-time purchases, was like 11%. I don't know if you've been following us, you would know that 8% growth in earnings quarter over quarter is a really good number. And in a sense, the earnings season that we just witnessed was on par with the previous 2 earnings seasons that we've seen, where the U.S. stock market was in a very strong bull market, ending the year around 24% in 2020. And then recording like 10% in the first 3 months of the US of the year. So if we look at these numbers, they are really good. I would say by now there's only 3 or 4 more companies remaining in the S&P 500 that didn't report, but 78.3% have reported earnings above estimates, analyst estimates, and the long-term average is 66%. So 78% did better than what we expected. Usual versus the average of 66%, and the prior 4 quarters average around 78.5%. So 78.3, 75.5, 78.5, same numbers, same quality of earnings, different market reaction. And the takeaway over here is that earnings, while they've been really great, their narrative is not what is most important right now. They were very important in Q4 and Q1 because we were still looking at how many cuts the Fed is going to be doing. Earnings were important because they signaled how strong the economy is and whether cuts were necessary. Right now, this is taking second place again back to the Fed policy. And what is really moving the market, as we've seen in like 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, has been inflation numbers. We saw that the markets dipped in April and recovered them all back in May, and that was due to a blip in inflation numbers. And although all these earnings, consistent earnings were happening in the background, the market didn't really take them into consideration, or else would have been at higher highs than we are right now. So the takeaway is, although the earning narrative has been consistent, it has taken second place against, inflation and the narrative of what is moving the economy. And talking about inflation, just this morning, the core PCE number came in, which is, the Fed's preferred inflation gauge. It's the one that they want to bring down to 2%. And as of April's numbers, the core PCE is around 2.8. It was 2.8 in February. January, it was above at 2.9. And it's been decreasing, but for the last 2 months, it's been stagnant. So this is going to be more important than what earnings do. And this is going to be very important for what is going to happen in 2 weeks when the Fed meets and we listen to what they have to say about inflation, along with new summaries of economic projections. So stay tuned.
Take a breath, Rabih. That was great. I can't help but think of Shakespeare when you talk about. Let me explain. I'm being serious. Okay, Rabih?
Shakespeare was an equity analyst.
Exactly. No, I've used this before, but truly, he had a quote. He said, nothing is either good or bad. Thinking makes it so. And I think about that when you're talking about this whole thing of like, the data doesn't matter. What matters is the narrative that you insert that data into, because we're sitting here saying earnings are, what was the market down last week or yesterday, Rabih? We were talking about this. It was down big, right? Was it yesterday?
0.5%. Yes.
Oh, okay. So not huge, but anyway, again, we're taking this data 78, like you would think in most cases, 78% beating analyst earnings versus the average of 66%, that again, in another narrative, another landscape, we'd be like, this is killer.
Mm-hmm.
But we're now, because the narrative is different, we're so nervous about inflation and what the Fed's going to do that the, again, quote unquote, positive data in normal circumstances is no longer. It's just, I don't know. I guess my whole point is it's just endlessly fascinating to me how important the overlying, like the whole narrative is, and the data points in different situations can either be looked at as good or bad, but we choose that as a society, whether it's good or bad. It's just fascinating to me.
I don't know if you're doing this on purpose, but is this a segue to Victoria's topic?
Maybe.
About you choosing the narrative? I was like, this is good.
Are we getting pretty good at this?
I think we are. We'll dot the dots wherever we can here. The dots are dotting.
The dots are dotting. So, okay, speaking of, should we jump to Victoria's talk? Rabih, any other final thoughts? Or Victoria, any thoughts on what Rabih was talking about?
Well, no, my question is like something that came to mind is like how much, when you look at inflation just as a factor in all of this, like how much of inflation like itself really affects this versus what people think about it, like percentage wise, like how much of it really affects it versus
or just like the fear
is
of
it
it.
Mostly just us being like kind of obsessed with inflation right now?
Oh, we are beyond obsessed with inflation at this point, I think, right? I mean, I'm not saying us on the show, although maybe we are, but I think we're just a reflection. I think what we talk about on the show being inflation a lot is simply a reflection that society at this point has become obsessed with it. I think it's gone too far, in my opinion, as far as just like how important it actually is.
Yeah.
But Rabih, I'll let you tell me if I'm wrong on that.
I think Victoria hit the nail in the coffin there, because really those numbers we're looking at are lagged data. Like this is what the last 12 months annualized look like. Whereas what's really important is our expectation of what inflation is going to be going forward, which are expected inflation, what's baked into expectations. And this has been hovering around 2.4, 2.5%, which where we want it to be. So we are looking at past data and worrying, but our proper expectations, how they're reflected into financial instruments and financial products, they are as rational as they should be. So, weighing the pros and cons, it's like, what do you want to focus on? But yeah, we'll see.
Well, we'll just keep talking about it on the show and having fun. So, okay, Rabih, any other thoughts, or Victoria, any thoughts on that? That was great. Yeah. I'm so glad we finally got to the point.
I completed
You completed it.
Thought, yes.
Okay. Took us 2 weeks. I'm a slow learner and mover. Sorry. Okay. Victoria, let's jump to you. Tell us, what is the secret to a happy life?
I don't know, but I have an idea.
Really quick. Have either of you... Okay, moving on. Sounds good. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. I'm going to ask a question that I already know the answer to, with you guys being some young pups. Have you ever seen the movie City Slickers?
No.
Okay, moving on. Anyway, I'll just tell you, City Slickers, for anyone who's out there listening who has seen City Slickers, it's a fantastic movie, Billy Crystal classic. But they talk about this. He says that there's an old crusty old cowboy in it. His name's Curly, and he has the secret to a life. And he says it's just one thing. And Billy Crystal's like, well, what is it? He's like, that's for you to figure out. Anyway, it made me think of that. So anyone that's listening, maybe everyone out there is like, how old is Matt? Maybe it was like in 1990.
You make yourself seem like you're a lot older than you
I know.
really are.
That's why Michelle said
around the office.
This is why Michelle thought I was 50, because she's like, you talk like you're 50.
Yes.
Anyway, moving on. Okay, Victoria, tell us the one thing. What's the secret to a happy life?
Well, one, nobody knows, but I have some thoughts and ideas around it. We know some things can lead you to a happier life. So I wanted to talk about this because the summit is coming up in
What's that?
Week? Oh, the Dentist Money Summit, June 21st through 22nd, Parkland, Utah. You've heard it here every single episode.
Every episode for about 6 months.
No, I wanted to kind of tie what I wanted to talk about to that, since that's coming up. And I'm somebody that just works smarter. And so I need to dig into this for the session that I am hosting, the Women's Money Conversation Circle. So I was like, why not? Like, double up here. So there was a study done by several PhDs, and I think run through the University of Michigan. I don't know. But basically what they did is they surveyed, I think it was 13,000 participants who are over the age of 50 to determine if having a sense of purpose led to a happier and better life. Surprise, surprise, it did. So let's see, where did I have this? They said here, growing evidence indicates that a higher sense of purpose in life is associated with reduced risk of chronic disease and mortality. So if you have like a really good sense of purpose, then you're more likely to sleep better at night, feel happier, have less, I think it was like a 46% reduced rate of mortality or something. So you live longer. But what I found most interesting is that they decided to survey those who were older, like greater than 50. And I think a lot of studies look at like college students, young folks, because they're like, oh, like what can we do for those people now to live a happier life? But what I really liked about this angle was like, you can, try to have a sense of purpose at any point in your life. And if you start that process, you can start to see like physical results, like mental results. And it's fascinating. So just because Robbie's here, I got to tell everybody how the study was done, because he's always questioning me.
Robbie's sitting there with his wry smile, like, "Oh yeah, Victoria, I'm going to dig into this and tell me."
Yeah, he's just like, "Did they use a linear regression model? Like, what kind of model did they use?" And I'm like, "Robbie, I don't know." Like,
should we talk about the copper shortage or?
No. So what they did, of these 13,000 people that they surveyed, they split them up into two groups, and this started in 2004 and 2006. So group one was 2004, and they surveyed them every couple of years for I think like 3 iterations. So this was a really long study. So that's like group one and group two. Same thing, just started in 2006 and surveyed every couple of years until they stopped in 2014, 2016. And it was completely in line with what they thought, that the more you feel like a sense of purpose in your life, they sleep better, feel better, live longer, and are less susceptible to chronic illness. Isn't that crazy, you guys?
That is crazy, and not particularly shocking. I would say, like, it totally makes sense. I think we've talked a lot about this. I feel like in some ways we've done ourselves a disservice as society with this whole like passion mindset, like follow your passions.
Right. I think it's deeper than that.
Well, and I also think it's a little bit, maybe even like you could define it as like even more simple than that, in the sense of, I think it sounds good. Like it sounds good in movies and books to be like, oh, follow your passion, just do what you love. It's like, I actually think, so there's a book, Cal Newport talks about this, this whole idea of a passion mindset versus a purpose-filled mindset, which is exactly what you're talking about, Victoria. And again, I think people sometimes are often trying to chase this passion or chasing happiness, like what's going to make me happy versus what you're describing, which is like, stop trying to chase happiness and start chasing your purpose.
Yeah.
And then happiness will ensue from that. So I love that you brought this up because I think there's a huge, huge difference. I actually think this kind of story that we as a society sell ourselves or sell each other is like, follow your passion, I think can actually lead to a life of unhappiness, because I'll be honest, a lot of people don't have passions. I know I don't.
Or they get it wrong. Like you think something makes you happy, but it really doesn't.
Totally.
There's so many like external factors that like tell you this is what's going to make you happy, right? But only you can really decide what your purpose is.
And that's the key right there, right? You get to choose it. So like, I'm going to out myself right now. Do I have an immense passion for financial planning? Not necessarily. Who does? Who has passion about financial planning? I think Rabih has a passion for what he does, truly, and I'll let Rabih jump in here. But in all seriousness, I don't have a passion for 401ks. I don't have a passion for Roth IRAs or cash flow analysis. But what I have an immense level of is purpose in my work and with the team and my clients and doing this content. I find an incredible level of purpose in what we do. Yeah. And I think purpose can lead to maybe a kind of teeter on the edge of getting to a level of passion, but I think it has to start with finding that purpose. So let's get Rabih in here. He's got thoughts. His wheels are turning right now.
It's not going to be a surprise for you guys, but I have beef with the study.
Ooh, I know. Rabih's do not make me feel things.
You know what I have passion for? Rabih and Victoria fights. Let's go.
I really feel like we are like opposite sides of the brain, Matt. Like I am usually all up in like the emotions and feelings, and Rabih's absolutely not.
Rabih's like, here's why you're wrong.
And so anytime we're on this together, we just make a complete brain.
It's the best. Okay, go ahead, Rabih.
It's really not like related to Victoria or like the results of the study itself.
I think I know what you're going to say, but keep going.
I feel like the word sense of purpose is used as like a one size fits all. Like it's a band-aid that's going to help you with whether you have a cut, a burn, a wound, or amputation. Like it does not work that way. And I don't know, maybe we're getting a little bit too philosophical here, but the idea of sense of purpose, like what do you define a sense of purpose? Because I think depending on your own philosophy, you'll define what a sense of purpose is. If you're a religious person, your sense of purpose is defined by, serving others and being, the good person in society, being there for your family, etc. If you're an existentialist or a nihilist, you do not believe that there's a sense of purpose, and your sense of purpose is to figure out your way amongst all this absurdity. And if you are, so it really depends on your value system, your philosophy, to come up with what a sense of purpose is. And at the end of the day, isn't it just the sum of all the short-term goals that you're putting for yourself? Like go get a sense of purpose. Like, where do I buy that? Like I need exactly, like what is it? If it's broken down to a bunch of smaller goals that I set for myself, I look at it differently versus if I look at it as, this is what I'm supposed to do because this is what centuries of wisdom has told me that I should be doing, I would follow it that way. So just find a sense of purpose is not one thing that you can buy. Even a sense of purpose will differ amongst people, which is why I feel like it's like looking, here's my passion, Matt. It's like looking at the stock price going up and down, and you don't know why it is going up and down. There are so many factors affecting it. Sense of purpose is affected by so many factors depending on your value, on your philosophy, on your upbringing.
So
I love and hate that you just did that, Rabih.
No, so I tend to agree. We should have a whole other. We could talk about this forever, and I don't think it's bad when you say, Rabih, we're getting philosophical. I love this kind of stuff.
Me too.
I'm with you, and this is why I think like sometimes happiness studies are tough to really buy into, because it's even more kind of ethereal, like what is happiness? Like who defines that? I think that's really tough. But I also don't know if that's a problem. Meaning, I think people, if you ask someone, do you have a sense of purpose? I think people just know. Either you do or you don't. I don't think there may not be a definition to it, to your point, but this actually makes me think of, and I don't have it on top of my head, or I don't have it in front of me. Surprise, surprise, I'm just throwing crap out at a wall from stuff I've read before. But I remember reading a study about kids, and the conclusion being that maybe surprisingly or unsurprisingly, the researchers found that kids actually don't make you happier. But what kids do is provide a very definable sense of purpose. And this is what they found. And I'm not out there saying, like, if you want a sense of purpose, go have kids. I'm just saying that, and as a father, it's very easy. So Rabih, if you were to come up to me on the street and say, do you have a sense of purpose? I could very easily point to my two children and say, absolutely have a sense of purpose. It's them. And I think most people can, even though what you're saying, I think is totally right, is like, it's kind of like this squishy, how do you define what sense of purpose is? But I actually think most people could say either they do or they don't. What I thought you were going to say, Rabih, and this is another issue that I have with some of these studies a little bit, is the idea of like reverse correlation. So I don't know if you can really determine, like, we're talking about these health benefits and stuff. And it totally makes sense, but I'll use an example. There's studies that show like, people that are married are happier, right? But the question is that a reverse correlation? Meaning, are people that like, does marriage make you happier, or are happy people more likely to be married?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the hard part, I think, with stuff like this, is you can't necessarily, is it the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. That's the angle I thought you were going, Rabih. Anyway, Victoria, what are your thoughts?
No, I think that's really fair. And I think I really like that you brought that up, Rabih, like what even is a sense of purpose? And I don't know, I feel like it's like,
come to the summit and find out. Oh, sorry.
That was good. That was really good.
Thank you.
No, I think there's lots of ways to take that, right? Like, we all talk about your why, like why do you get up in the morning? Why do you have your practice? Like, what are you optimizing for? I hear you say that all the time, Matt. Like your why, or just like the meaning behind what you do. And I feel like I can understand that. Like, if you don't feel that meaning behind the work you do, especially for dentists, like having such a stressful career, that can make you feel less tied to it. That can make you feel just like not having a sense of direction. I could see how loneliness happens. And we've talked about that in the past, how that's the next epidemic is loneliness. So yeah, I get what you're saying, chicken or the egg situation, but I can also see how a lack of meaning and purpose and understanding your why can lead to like negative outcomes.
Well, and it's so funny how different brains work, right? I know what Robbie's doing because I know how Robbie's brain works. He wants a definable solution, like something he can analyze. Exactly. And I totally understand that.
Yeah.
But again, how my brain works, and I think Victoria, you're probably similar, is that I think the point is that you get to define it yourself. That is the point. You do get to define it yourself and choose what that purpose is. That's the point. And I think what I tell clients all the time is it can't just be about a number on a screen. It can't. Mm-hmm. People are like, oh, I need to get to $5 million before I can retire. Bull crap. That's absolute bull crap, because you'll get to 5 million and then you'll want 10. Or you'll get to 5 and you'll feel empty, because if you don't have whatever that definable purpose is for you, whatever that 5 million represents as far as your actual life,
right,
it's going to be an empty number. And I guarantee it, because I've seen it over and over and over and over again. It has to be something deeper that, again, Rabih, to your point, you get to define. It's totally up to you. And I think that's the point. I mean, I joked about city slickers, but truly the quote is like, that's for you to find out when he asks what's that one thing. And it sounds really like hokey, cliche, whatever, but it's true. You get to define it. So anyway, Rabih, final word.
No, I agree with you. The idea that you have to define it makes conducting such studies so hard, because you have so many variables. That's the whole point. Sure.
Totally get it. But there must be people out there that they're because this is saying growing evidence indicates the higher sense of purpose in life is associated with reduced risks of chronic diseases. So that means there's a other side of this, which is there are people out there saying they don't have a sense of purpose, right? Yeah. So again, even though it's hard to define, there's clearly a line of people saying they do or people saying they don't. But I agree, these can be flawed because of these squishy terms. So, okay, Victoria, I will give you the final word on this.
Thank you.
I kind of want to end it here, by the way. Like, I don't want to jump into financial advice at this point. I think this is like a perfect thing.
I would like to close with a Dolly Parton quote.
I saw this. I'm going to steal this, by the way.
I loved it because, again, like I'm hosting a women's money conversation circle, and I've been doing a lot of prep for it. And Lauren Curl on our team found this quote, and I think it's lovely. So Dolly Parton says, never get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life. And I think that is so like pertinent to practice owners and, you know, dentists, because a lot of times it's so easy to get sucked into that and get stuck into the numbers and all of that, and like not taking the time to slow down and realize that you are trying to build a life, right? Not just trying to make a living. So I love that.
I love that. And I literally saw that quote in your notes. Sorry, I was looking at your notes. I know you get mad at that. And I thought I might steal this from my summit speech. Sorry, but I'll give you credit.
You never have to apologize for using a Dolly Parton quote.
It's true. Good old Dolly. Okay. I was just thinking too, I love the juxtaposition of this, of like Rabih going over the numbers, the economics, the market, all the stuff. And then we jump straight to this like philosophical discussion around purpose, finding purpose in life. It's the best. I honestly love it. That's why I think I love doing this show so much.
Yeah, it's an art and a science here.
Yeah, totally. Okay, I truly do feel like I want to end it here. I don't know. Should I jump to? I kind of want to end it.
We can talk about the summit.
Tease it. Yeah,
tease your topic.
Should we just hit the summit? No, I think I'm going to hold mine until next week. Let's tease it because I just feel like that was such a good way to. There's such a good discussion, and it feels kind of weird now jumping to like the Biden proposal on financial advice.
Yeah, no.
So let's hit it next week.
Yeah. Let's not be like, you know, the sequel that shouldn't have happened.
We're going to intentionally push
like
this.
Shrek 3, you know, like that was such a pointless movie. You guys should have ended at Shrek 2.
I was thinking the same thing. Holy
like,
cow!
I Need
Shrek
a
3.
Hero by the Fairy Godmother. Epic.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So
end that sequel there.
We'll tease it for next week. This is probably our final plug for the summit because we are 3 weeks out. Maybe we'll do one
final? More. It's not like this is the last summit we'll ever do.
No,
sorry. That as soon as it's over, it's like 2025. People.
Well, of course, we're already making plans to 2025. But I'm saying for this, like, we'll probably make our final this one, or maybe next week we'll do our final plug for the 2024 summit. You're right, Victoria. We will be doing it. We've already got it planned and booked out, ready to go for 2025. But we are 3 weeks out, almost exactly 3 weeks out to the Dentist Money Summit. And honestly, I was up there this last week, just walking the grounds of the hotel, and we're making final preparations. It's feeling real. It is going to be amazing. Honestly, tons of discussions and things around what we talked about. We're going to have a nice balance, kind of like we do on the show. We just talked about of kind of the hardcore numbers. You know, Rabih, we're going to be doing the 2 cents on stage, so we're going to get discussions like this there, but truly a lot of discussions around the theme, which is how to live a rich life. And, you know, we're very open about this. You may or may not care about like coming and listening to stuff like this philosophical discussion around finding your purpose, but we love this. And so if you are someone who is out there too busy, as what Dolly Parton says, you're maybe too busy making a living and you're maybe forgetting how to make a life. I think the summit truly is a great opportunity to take a step back, be with like-minded individuals, learn from each other, bring your family. It's so crazy how many people we're talking to that are bringing their kids, bringing their spouse, bringing friends. So if you want to check it out, we'd love to have you there. There is still room, dentistmoneysummit.com. Check it out. We'd love to see you in Park City, Utah, June 21st and 22nd. Rabih, Victoria, as always, thank you so much for being here. Everyone, thank you for listening. That is our 2 cents. Till next time, have a good weekend. Bye-bye.